French and Indian War. It was a thing that happened in early American history. Not many people know what happened in it. I have a question to ask you. What would you sacrifice to gain land? Over the course of the French and Indian War, people sacrificed time, money, life itself to gain land that they could not keep. There were four people groups involved in the French and Indian War. The French and their Indian allies, the British, their Indian allies, and the actual Indians. In the French and Indian War, the French and Indian War began in America, where Washington approached a fort in the late 1700s and lost a massive battle to the French. He was trying to gain land west of the Mississippi. After this, the French won many American forts and continued to they weren't American, they were English forts at the time, and continued to close in on the English territory. The British responded to this by sending a captain over to the Americas to fight back. And this captain was horribly ambushed, and many of his men were slaughtered, and that did not work very well. Meanwhile, the French were capturing territory in the Cuban area, and Jamaica, and in India itself, and all over Europe, war was starting out. So it was sort of like World War I. So in America, the French were winning. Now over in India, the French had won quite a few victories, but the British eventually pushed back and squashed all French power in India. In Britain, the British gathered many allies throughout Europe. Many of them were smaller countries, and fought against the French, who had also gained a couple allies. And it was this massive, brutal war that just kept going and going. It was probably about 7 years. It's also known as the 7 Years' War in Europe. They fought for their freedom. So in America, the French were winning and everything was going on. The British eventually sent American colonists enough troops to push back the French that they stayed on their side of the Mississippi. And a treaty was signed, known as the Treaty of Paris. It's the first Treaty of Paris, that said the French would stay on their side of the line and the American colonists on their side. So overall, this war was an unprofitable war because many people died, and nothing was won for any of the countries because Britain lost all of the land it had gained in the war within 100 years because of the American Revolution. Thank you for listening.